This is a new day. This is a new day full of sound and light and expectation. This day has been waiting for you. This day has been waiting especially for you, to embrace you, to guide you. This day has been waiting with open arms just for you. This is the day we have been given. Let's not waste it. Come now, and let us worship together. Welcome, everybody, from across the land of Youngstown, Ohio, throughout the Mahoning County, Trumbull County, Pennsylvania, Hermitage, all the way to California, Colorado, New York City, South Carolina, all the way to Brazil, Dominican Republic, parts of Europe, all across the globe. Welcome, live, thanks to a great team that virtually streams these services during this pandemic, to 1105 Elm Street on the corner of Illinois and Elm on the north side of Youngstown, one of the greatest cities in the world. It is my pleasure to welcome you into this live virtual space this morning. For over a century, this church has been a source of strength and solidarity with those who are marginalized in this community, in this country, and now in this entire world. We have put on the face of our church a large Black Lives Matter banner to remind everyone who walks by, everybody who drives by, everybody who has some engagement with our church building, that racism and systems that support racism must transform if we are to become the beloved community. And that is what we are about here at this church. Transformation. Transformation of ourselves and transformation of our world, understanding that these are not two things, but one thing. For over a decade, we have waved a rainbow flag to signify this space and now this virtual space as a sanctuary for all persons who identify as LGBTQIA+. And it is just so wonderful to be with you this morning. We have numerous events happening other than Sunday worship services that you are more than welcome to attend and participate in. Later this evening at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have meditation with Linda Scharf, who is an experienced Tibetan Buddhist practitioner. At 3:00 today, Eastern Standard Time, there will be a discussion on foreign policy, specifically the relationship of Germany with the U.S. during the Cold War. So if that's interesting to you, it's going to be on this same channel, which you're welcome to tune in, 3:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This coming Wednesday, October 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I would love for you to join me in discussing November's worship theme, healing. What does it mean to be a people of healing? What does it mean to be a person of healing? What does it mean to be a country that nurtures and supports healing? These are some of the questions we're going to engage with, and I welcome you to join me. That's going to be this coming Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's going to be using this exact same Zoom link. And I would now love to go to Elizabeth White, who's going to be giving us an update on our stewardship. Our theme this year is carrying each other through. Carrying each other through. Our pledge drive is going to start, it's already started October 6th, and it goes until October 31st. And a pledge drive is when all our viewers have the opportunity to make a financial contribution to this coming year so that we can budget what kind of programming we can afford to offer you consistently. So now let's go to Elizabeth White for our stewardship update.
Thank you, Reverend Joseph. We are indeed 1 week into our 3-week campaign. At this point, sorry, I just got out of the shower. At this point, we have already raised $37,520 towards our 2021 budget. So I wanted to just take a few minutes to tell you about just how the budgeting happens. So for the last 3 years, our goal has been $140,000. That is just what it takes to run our church, to have a full-time minister to engage in the ministry that we do in the community, to have a part-time office staff, to pay the bills, to support the building. To me, it's a bargain, but that is what it costs, and it's up to each of us to participate to the level that we can to make that possible. This year, all of our campaign is pretty much virtual. So we tried to call everybody who attends services, members, friends. If we haven't reached you, it's only because we weren't able to. But we've asked people, because it's all virtual and it's a first time for all of us, to participate in one of 9 one-hour meetings on Zoom, where we're just kind of explaining, we have a couple special things to share with you, and also explaining how the process works this year since we're not in person. So we've had 3 of those meetings so far. Probably about 20 people have attended. We still have another 6 scheduled, Tuesday and Thursday for the next 2 weeks from 7 to 8 p.m. and the next 2 Saturdays from 2 to 3. So if you are at all willing and able to come join us, it would be great. It's simply a 1-hour commitment. It's a beautiful way to be together. And just a quick back of the envelope calculation. So with 37,500 in, we basically need $100,000, and then we can be done. We can run our church. Things are very, very uncertain, though. A number of people have lost their jobs. Other people are relatively untouched by this pandemic in terms of their income. And those are the folks we're actually really making a special ask to this year, to carry each other through. But right now, I have to do the math again. Right now, it's always good to have a calculator nearby. We have 42 of us online right now. If all 42 of us pledged $2,380 over the course of next year, we'd have what we need. And that works out to $6.50 a day. Now, in truth, some people have already pledged, some people have pledged more than that, but that's just sort of the math of what it takes. It's the simple math of what it takes to run our church. So please do come join us at one of our meetings. They've been beautiful. They've been fun. We have a lovely video to share with you. And if you're not able to make one this week, midweek, we will be sending out by email the electronic pledge card. So at the meeting, we walk through it and show you how to do it. But if you're not able to be at a meeting, you will get one anyway. So please do check out our email when we send it, and please get your pledges in by the 31st so that we can make our plans, we can make our budget, and we can do what we do best and have an impact in each other's lives, carry each other through, carry our community through, and do what we can to serve our world. So thank you for indulging a long message.
Good morning, friends. My name is Bree, and I'm so happy to be here with you this morning to light the chalice. Like many of you, I've been thinking about the theme this month and what it means to listen deeply. And all the change that has happened in 2020 in myself and in the world around me, I've often found that when I listen deeply, my head and my heart don't come to the same conclusion. Sometimes I may know something in my head that my heart disagrees with. Other times the opposite is true. I watch the news. I see suffering, injustice, violence. I may see or even understand these things with my head, but how do we hear the cries of the world? We listen to them deeply with our hearts. And one of my favorite books about a journey about listening deeply and uncovering what can be difficult to see, the author of The Alchemist writes, "You will never be able to escape from your heart. So it is better to listen to what it has to say." So this morning, in the spirit of not escaping from our hearts, for using our hearts to remain open to the world, to its cries, to the beauty that lies beyond suffering. I light this chalice.
Please join me in reading our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another. This month, each month we give to an organization that supports transformation in our community, which is the heart of our mission. In our church's historic commitment to the well-being of our community, we give 100% of our offering to those in need. UUYO's Give Away the Plate recipient for October is UU the Vote. The UU the Vote campaign launched last year as a nonpartisan effort to promote and support democracy. Since then, UU the Vote has become a robust, transformative program that is renewing our collective promise to show up and make a difference. As of late September, the UU the Vote with their partner organizations has reached more than 1 million voters. The work that UUYO has done with Reclaim Our Vote postcard initiative and the texting efforts throughout vote are included in that count. From state action networks to local congregations, Unitarian Universalists are not sitting this one out. In cities large and small, UUs are working alongside partners to take on racial justice, LGBTQ plus rights, climate justice, and more. UUYO has been receiving training, support, and resources from UU the Vote and UU the Vote Ohio. More information is at www.uuthevote.org. We will now receive the offering that supports the life of Youngstown, the Mahoning Valley, and our wider world.
This morning during our meditation, I would like to hold our musician Jeff Krause, who regularly plays with us here at UUYO. Jeff's longtime partner Linda passed away Saturday morning, and I'd like to hold Linda Neal and her family in our meditation. Linda was an evangelical Christian, that was her faith, but she would often come to our services because she loved the spirit of this place, and she loved our social action. And we loved her, and we love Jeff. So let us hold the family of Linda Neal, Jeff Krause, and everyone who is grieving during this time.
The following reading was chosen by Reverend Joseph for today's service and is in the first person, but it has particular relevance for me, for I was born and nurtured in the Lakes region of New Hampshire. The themes of belief, faith, and community also resonates with me in this time of my life as I embark on the formal training to become a commissioned lay leader in the Ohio Meadville district of Ohio. Faith and belief. Last summer, my husband John and I were canoeing in New Hampshire. At the end of a trip around the lake, I climbed out of the canoe first, had 1 foot in the lake, and 1 foot in the canoe. That's when things went wrong. While taking my foot out of the canoe, I caught my heel on the edge. Losing balance, I instinctively reached out for the most solid thing within my grasp, the canoe. There are times when grabbing onto what appears most solid and stable is exactly the wrong thing to do. When I resurfaced, I saw my husband sitting in 1.5 foot of water, fishing for his glasses on the lake bottom. In my attempt to save myself, I took an innocent bystander down as well. I tell this story not to demonstrate my lack of boating experience, but to say that I understand the emotional impetus to grasp onto what seems most stable and solid when the world is tipping us off our feet. In religious terms, we might say that we are driven to hold ever more tightly onto our beliefs when we are under stress. Like grabbing a canoe for stability, depending on belief is to keep us from going under, is to grasp at the wrong thing. It is not our belief that we need to hold on to, but our faith. Though the two are often taken to mean the same thing, there is a subtle and critical difference. Faith is a deep confidence, vital to our belief is only what we think is true, though we would dwell on it. Faith leaves room for mystery. Belief does not. As Albert Einstein's personal credo, the most beautiful we can experience is the mysterious. Sometimes what is most stable, solid, only an illusion. Things that appear more ethereal, that may seem to be the toughest to grasp, are in fact the most stable and secure. Love, faith, and community may seem to be intangible ideals, but if nurtured, they can serve as the very bedrock of our lives. Beliefs can fall away, but the things that seem most insubstantial, perhaps because they can be the hardest to come by, have the greatest worth and provide the steadiest base.
A handsome prince was in the habit of looking at himself in the mirror on a daily basis. One day he picked up the mirror the wrong way, and instead of looking at himself in the mirror, he was looking at the back of the mirror. And he didn't see his beautiful head. He went screaming from the palace in terror, telling all the villagers that he had lost his beautiful head. He was so terrified and upset that the villagers had to tie him to a pillar and gag him to muffle his screams. The prince's friends eventually found him and told him that his head was still there. It was as beautiful as ever, even though he couldn't see it. The prince still didn't believe him. He flailed and tried to escape and tried to scream through his gag. To not further embarrass the prince, his friends untied him and carried him back to the palace. They removed the gag, and once removed, the prince continued this frenzied tirade about not having any head anymore. One friend got so annoyed with the prince that he slapped him on the cheek. And it hurt. And there was a pause. The prince said, something's stunned here. So he went to go to his mirror, he picked it up, looked at it himself, and indeed, his head was still there. You think this would be the end of the story, but it wasn't. This actually sent him into another frenzy, where he then went screaming through the entire village, telling everybody he once lost his head for a period of time, and now his head had returned, and he didn't know how. This went on for many, many years until he was able to settle down just enough and to realize that yes, even though he couldn't see it, he always had a head. Most of us go through this at some point. We rely on something or someone that is a source of comfort and stability for us. We find strength in it. We return to this person or this thing in times of trouble and confusion. We look at ourselves in the mirror of our own choosing and see what we want to see. And it is a comfort to see something that we expect to see. It is a great comfort to expect to see something, and then lo and behold, it is exactly as we expected. What we hold to be true is really true. It is a very, very satisfying feeling to believe something to be true and then get visual confirmation that what we believe to be true, yes, it is true. I thought I had a head, and yes, I see my head on the screen. I have a head. I see it plain as day. But there always comes a time when the unexpected happens to us. Something we didn't account for. Something we didn't prepare for. Something we never considered to be true. It's a terrifying moment when instead of seeing what we hold to be true, what we always counted on to be true, we see nothing. Nothing. We are so afraid of seeing nothing that many of us will concoct scary images, nightmares, doomsday predictions. just so we can see something. But seeing nothing, seeing the absence of the thing or the person that we depended on, is one of the most scary and one of the most freeing moments. We see no reflection of what we think or what we hold to be true, and thus for a time maybe have no idea who we are or where we belong. We look everywhere, look around, looking for something that was lost, not sure we'll ever get it back. Many people find this church after some period of feeling like they've lost their head. For many, this was the discovery that the beliefs that guided them for so long reached a point where they didn't work anymore. For many of us, this might have been religious beliefs. But more and more, especially over the last year, many people are finding us through this virtual space because some of the basic beliefs about our country, some of the basic beliefs about our democracy, some of the basic beliefs about policing, about our justice system, some of the basic beliefs of who we can trust are being tested. And they're not always holding up to what we originally believed or thought, for some of us. It's scary to realize that you've depended on a way of seeing yourself and the world after that view is no longer an option in the same way. It's destabilizing. It's no wonder that so many of us right now are trying to get our bearings and find out where we are. We may feel like we're running around without a head, and we're looking for someone, anyone, to help mirror back to us who we think we are and know that we are deep down. The empirical evidence of this moment sometimes seems lacking. We are flooded with information, flooded with predictions, flooded with conflicting viewpoints, flooded with potential mirrors trying to tell us who we are, what we should think, what we should believe, and how we should feel. But many of us, I think, want to know this for ourselves, firsthand. In Hinduism and Buddhism, there is a goddess of compassion called by many names, including Tara, Avalokiteshvara, and Kuan Yin. She is a goddess whose purpose is to hear the cries of the world. Most of us by now know there is a lot of crying in the world. There are many people crying out to find something that they've lost. Many people are crying, seeking justice. Many are crying just to know that they are still human and have a voice and feelings and a perspective. What do you think this goddess looks like as she hears the cries of the world? What do you imagine she would look like if she could hear every single cry in the world all at once? My first thought, if I had to imagine it, would be that maybe she would look something like myself or many people who watch the news on a daily basis. tense, angry, vaguely nauseated. But her pose is very surprising. It's not quite like that. She is relaxed, and her posture is open. All her limbs are open, and her face shows neither excitement nor agitation. From my Western perspective, she looked almost indifferent, unmoved, not like anyone that I'd really want to model. But there was something comforting about her pose, something that I couldn't put my finger on at that time when I first saw her. She offered comfort in a way that I couldn't quite understand when I first saw her image. Being open to the world is both a very scary and very freeing thing. In being open, we don't know what we'll hear or what we'll learn. We don't know what will be mirrored back to us. Something we've always held to be true, or something that we've never, ever before considered. It took me years to understand that I don't think we were meant to be like Kuan Yin or Avalokiteshvara. Exactly. As human beings, we have a limit to how much we can take in, how much we can hear, how much we can digest, and even how much we can be open to the world. I see now that the power of this goddess is not that we become like her, but that we can turn toward her, toward to this kind of openness that hears every single cry out there. We can turn toward an understanding that no one's plight is falling on deaf ears, even though sometimes it feels like that in the moment. The goddess is not offering us an example about how to be, per se, but she's offering a kind of faith, something that is beyond our own or anyone else's limitations. Many of us feel we can live our lives as long as there is a certain level of control. We can live our lives if we consistently look at the mirror of our own choosing the same way every day. We can live as long as we see with our own sense what we hold and believe to be true. Most of the time, this works fine. It works great, actually. But there will come a time when it won't work. There will be a day when we pick up the mirror, the belief that we've held on to, even a scientific belief, and that belief will not hold up to the moment. We will be tempted maybe to label the beliefs then as some ideals of youth, and it'll be tempting to double down on our sense of control as our views grow smaller, more rigid, more controlled, more careful. We begin to see openness as a foolish thing. We can spend our life trying to escape hearing any cry anywhere, maybe even especially our own. I love what Cheryl Shartle shared last Sunday, that listening to someone, really hearing them, is the same as loving them. It does take faith to trust that our plight is being heard by compassionate and loving witnesses. I don't mean necessarily a faith in a transcendent God, something beyond our circumstances. I'm talking about a faith within our circumstances, something down to earth, real. We often mistake what is tangible for what is real in our culture. We often mistake not seeing our own image in the way that we expect to mean that we've lost everything that we hold dear. We often think if we can't sense what we need in that moment, then we will never get what we need. We can mistake not seeing our own head as evidence that we will no longer have one. But the truth is, we are limited in what we sense at any given moment. We can only sense so much. But we can imagine a world where all the cries of the world are heard, and everyone is shown for who they really are, beautiful and whole. This is real, though it may not always feel tangible in every single moment. When we live into this reality, a reality where cries become compassion, when the whole world and everyone in it is being intimately, truly heard, we lose the compulsion to go through the village screaming. We quit being terrified, and thus terrifying everyone else around us. We learn to take ourselves a bit more lightly, and we begin to lose our obsession of looking at ourselves in the same way, just to know we're real and still there. Faith is the understanding that there is something more going on beyond what we can sense, something going on beyond our limited viewpoints. This is always true. Belief is the idea that we know what is going on out there. Belief is suspicious and in the end unreliable. Faith is always real because it's not tangible. So I look at Kuan Yin differently now. She embodies for me a kind of possibility that is real and always present. A possibility that those in distress are never alone in their plight. A possibility that though my hearing is limited, the cries of the world are being held in loving embrace, not by a being, but by all of us, in a way that I will never fully understand. Faith is where the imagination and our lived experience meet. It would not be quite right to say, I believe in a goddess that hears the cries of the world. It is much closer to say that I have faith that the cries of the world are never in vain, and that compassion is natural, real, and true. It is as true as breathing, as true as being alive, as true as grief, as true as every single cry. How do I know this to be true? I don't. Not through tangible instruments like a mirror. How do I know I have a head? Because I'm talking to you right now. If I turn my monitor off, have I lost everything? It is a mistake to conflate the limitation of our vision with the limitation of the world. In a time of great uncertainty, like the time we are living in right now, there is a search for some kind of tangible certainty, something we can rely on. It's a mistake to do this. It's a mistake. In a time of uncertainty, we should seek greater uncertainty, greater realms of not knowing, greater vistas of faith and imagination. This is the source of abundance. Scarcity teaches there is only so much in this world. There is only so much in our household. There is only so much in our own lives. We accept limitations as the ultimate truth, the most real thing there is. We accept loss as a given, and we think that living in a state of missing something crucial, missing out on compassion, makes us more real. We say, that's life, without any kind of irony. We confuse our own limitations as the limitations of the world. And we confuse our limited view of ourselves to be who we really are. Always missing something, always lost, always wanting. We hear the cries of the world, and they make us afraid, and they make us feel sad, and they make us feel helpless. It makes us feel like it's all too much. And it is all too much. It's too much for our limited selves, our limited views, and our limited beliefs. It's too much if we rely on our limited openness. But we are actually living something more spacious and mysterious. We are living in the reality of Kuan Yin, a reality that holds all these limitations with ease. How do I know this? I don't. To know is to go in the wrong direction. To not know is much better. We need more not knowing in this world. Not knowing opens us up to the mysterious. It opens us up to the possible. It opens us up to others who tell us, I see your head. It's right there. And darling, it's gorgeous. Everything you've relied on is here, just not the way that you thought. Everything you value is still here. Everything you love is right here in plain sight, even in loss, even when you're afraid. Faith says, I'm not sure about all that, but I guess it's possible. And that's what we need during this time. Just this small, tentative openness. I'm not sure, but I guess it is possible. And in that small, tentative opening, our listening becomes deeper. And our whole bodies sense what was there all along. Please pray with me. Spirit of love, we are grateful to be alive this day. We are so grateful to be connected to each other virtually and in ways that we will never fully understand. We are so grateful to have a body, even when we have aches and pains, even when it's difficult to walk or move in the way that we once did. Wherever we are and however we are grateful to be alive and to have the gift of breath. And we are grateful for the opportunity this day to commit ourselves to seeing and living beyond fear. For those who are grieving during this time, may we and the world be a source of beauty and comfort for them. May those who are experiencing loss and grief know they are never alone and that they are loved. All this we pray. Amen.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts until we meet again.
As you depart, please remember the one great fact. You are loved, and never truly alone.